1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 Cut Commandments, boy.
You are now tuned in to Barber World TV. I am your host, Kamal Nuru, a.k.a. Zo Mega Millions. The blade to your fade, the ends to your bends, and the cheers to your shears. Our special guest today is none other than the legendary Jazzy Joyce in the building.
Sound effects.
And we have some people in here. Make some noise. So what's up, Jazzy? How you doing?
Oh my goodness. I am thankful and honored to be here, and I'm excited to be here at Barber World TV. This is actually I'm a rookie to this world, and this is nice to be that again.
Right.
You know, because taking up the idea of the art or the studying the art of barbering was something that I've always wanted to do.
Right.
So for a creative individual, it's just another form of expressing.
Yeah, you're an artist through and through.
Through and through, yeah. So the thing about it is you have to go through formal training to understand how to use your tools properly, so that once you learn how to use your tools, then you can get the thoughts in your head out, because then you're understanding how to execute. And then through execution and repetition, you level up. To master,
level up.
Level up.
Well, let's bring it back. We gonna get back into all of that. But for those that don't know, let them know where you from.
I'm born and raised from the Boogie Down Bronx.
Boogie Down Bronx.
Yes. And I witnessed hip hop and the culture of hip hop, and what under that umbrella includes so many components. You have the visual art.
5 elements.
5 elements, exactly. I was going to break it down. That was the 5 elements.
Break it down.
So we have visual, which is the art, graffiti. Speaking of creativity, the painting, I painted, you guys can see. I carved that so that no one would steal my brush, or I won't misplace it.
Right.
Did you see my brush? Yeah, here you go. So art, that's the visuals. Then break dancing, the movement. Then the MC, and then the DJ. So that's 4 elements. But then the 5th element is, I think, would be kind of, I don't know what your 5th element would be, but it would be a combine of the fashion influence, the barber influence, all of the other...
The visual.
Part of the visual. So I had the opportunity to be taught by Levels Barbershop, and I'm so glad that we worked the opportunity out for me to do this, because it was something inside that I felt I could do. And now look, to be able to, I did this myself. So when I'm traveling and people, I know sometimes it looks kind of crazy in a way, but it's to be able to execute fades, and to never have been able to do that before, but then think in my mind, if I could, voila, here I am. And it's because of Levels. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful. So look, talk to me. Ask me.
I'm gonna ask you. We still gonna go back to the beginning, and we're gonna work our way up. Okay. So, what inspired you to be a DJ?
My birthplace of where I was born was the inspiration for me to become a DJ. My birthplace and my circumstances, they just put me right where I was supposed to be. I was born in, like I said, Bronx, so I would see graffiti on the trains. The young man who taught me how to DJ, his name is Anthony Carter, born out of Forest Projects, and his mother and my grandmother were friends. Normally in just places, women tend to befriend each other and then raise their kids together. Right. So you kind of have that, that's my cousin, but it's not, we're not blood, but we've gone through
so
life.
Close to somebody's like, that's my cousin.
Right. Or if my mom is not, or if someone from my family is not around, the next family that I'm going to is his family. So we just, so long story short, just me being born where I was at, I saw so much stuff. The real life, them hooking up the DJ equipment to the lamppost.
Right.
Seeing Red Alert when he was skinny and young, DJing with the caution tape somewhere where they was like, don't cross the ropes. Working as a camp counselor at maybe 16, taking care of 13-year-olds, going to an event at the PAL, seeing Grandmaster Flash and then perform at the PAL in front of it. Like, we didn't know all of these things were history making, but I was literally on the front line by where I was born, seeing so much. So that in itself bit me more than once in many ways. Like, look at that. If I'm on the train, then that's a component of the culture. I'm being bombarded with it in my travels, going to school, existing. Boom. Then just all around me, Saturdays when mothers clean and the music they chose, then the DJs would pick certain songs from their parents' catalog that had the good drum breaks and the good, just seeing everything.
Well, let me say it like this, because a lot of us grew up under those same circumstances, but there had to be something, something more that made you say, I want to DJ. We all grew up, well, a lot of us grew up under the culture, and we all experienced those influences. But like me, I used to do the electric boogie. That was my thing. So, but
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you why. Because the line to get to the mic was too long.
Oh.
My cousin was the DJ. He was the DJ. And the 9 people are waiting for him. So I went to the shorter line.
You wanted a piece of it, but you ain't want to wait on the long line.
Right. But then actually the short line required so much more responsibility and study. How hard is it to find a couple of words? No disrespect to any MC, but y'all did not have to do a lot of that research and case study and foundation building of who I am is something that every time when people ask, well, Joyce, why, how, this and that, you wasn't with me when I was shooting in the gym. Like, y'all don't know these. I had to wait. I had to wait for Karate Flicks to finish. And then him to get on the turntables, get his time in 1.5 hours too. It might be about 5, 6 o'clock before I could get to touch the turntable. Right. So that means myself and all of the MCs got to wait. So I had to wait for the MC. So anyway, that's the long story short of it. Right. I knew I didn't want to have to verbally snap on my friends. And the line was shorter. I didn't want to wait 8, 7, 6 MCs into their story to get it ready to be like, and then the one and the two. I was like,
it's a much more crowded space being an MC
at that time.
Yeah, but I guess that's why the DJ back then was revered so much, because all that you had to accomplish and encompass to be a DJ. I mean, like, a DJ is an expensive art form and a hobby or whatever you want to say. I mean, you had to get turntables. You had to have records. You had to have coffins. You had to transport this stuff. So, I mean, like, that's like, I could see somebody be like, Ma, I need a turntable. And then the next Christmas, Ma, I need the other turntable.
That's why a lot of crews didn't make it. And me being on the foundation part of it and the side of it that was developmental, I witnessed my cousin go through having an argument with a friend who maybe he bought one Apache record and my cousin had the other Apache record. Now he can't cut it no more because they had an argument, and this nigga be like, yo, give me my records, and they go in the crate. Now the crate used to be packed and all that. Right. They go in and they take his records. And that's why when you see some of the records, people have their name on it, DJ so-and-so, because you can know whose record is scratched or not. Because, if you get this Apache scratched, that's yours. No, nigga, it's yours. Because, look, you scratched out your name.
Right.
I saw all of these. I saw this in the
Right.
It wasn't on HBO. It was in real life. So that's what made me make the decision early. Like, okay, girl, you're going to have to get your own stuff.
Yes.
It might take a little longer, but that was something that I was privy to from early, that I knew that it drove me to make the sacrifices that I needed to early on, so I didn't wind up later in that setback type of situation.
Right.
That's all. And that was me just learning from somebody else. Like, look, you be like,
Sidebar, taking notes.
Right. I was like, yeah, noted. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So that's the motivation.
And how old were you when you started to actually DJ and hone your skill?
My first gig was at 13. So you figure the honing started, it was like about, it's like 11,
Wow.
11, then about 12, 13, like it starts to pick up. And then people are realizing, oh, wow, you really took that in. So you say, I always go from 13 because that was the first gig. I still have the flyer.
And what gig was that?
I was on the bill with Africa Bambaataa, DJ Red Alert. We were at a club. And Jazzy J. I can't forget Jazzy J. Love you.
J.
Yes.
Is that an influence on the name?
I think it was because I was anointed. My first DJ name was Joyce D. You know, the D. It's always these phases, just like the little this, that. So I was in the D phase, like Mike D, Davey D, the D, you know.
Yes.
So then someone decided to anoint me. Like, nah, that's cute, but you're jazzy. Like, it was the testimony of their experience from what I didn't realize I was.
Right.
You know, so they were like, no, you jazzy. So the name was Anointed.
Okay.
I remember around the time where I was referred to, but I can't remember who to credit that to.
Right.
But I would credit it to my cousin or some, you know, them. It was like the grandmasterism of, hey, no more D, you're Jazzy Joyce.
Right.
So
I
was
was like, you got your black belt.
kind of. So I was in the ranks of Jazzy J, Jazzy Jeff, and I was the female Jazzy Joyce.
Jazzy Joyce.
So my first gig, I was 13, and the name of the club was called The Earth's Edge. It was down at on Houston.
Okay.
And then the reason why it was called the Earth's Edge, because that part of New York City and all of that was like downtown and considered the kind of the end.
The end of this Manhattan.
Right, because it's close to the end of the island,
Right.
and near the water, Hudson, everything off of Houston. So it was called the Earth's Edge, and that was the club. And can I just say that one of the conditions for me to DJ was the club owner was like, okay, yeah, she's 13, she's dope, but the only way I can allow her to DJ here is that unless she's accompanied by a parent. Yeah, right. So my mom had to attend. And I want to say about 10 years ago, I ran into the same owner who owns the club. And you know what he whispered to me upon approaching? He said, you were always a class act.
Wow.
Joyce. So that in itself made me realize that who I am as an adult and how I carry myself, I had this idea of how to be from very young. So for him to spot me again as an adult, see that it's still me and the energy, because I was out on a date, and the date, it was like being a dog whore. He was walking his dog, so when he looked up from that, the first thing he said was, "Joyce, you're always like." Right. For him to spot me, and so
you made an impression.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Made an impression.
Yeah. So that was I hope y'all following all of this.
Yeah. So you go from DJing at 13. Mm-hmm. When did a pivotal point happen after that? What happened after that to make a difference?
There was a lot of pivots and pivots, like, because that was the early start.
Yeah, still somewhere in the early point.
point,
Like,
yeah.
what happened to change things?
First, I was taught the foundation, then molded by WizKid. DJ WizKid.
He's from the Bronx.
Yes, he's from the Bronx. He was a recording artist on Tommy Boy Records. May he rest in peace. He passed. He had a tumor in his brain.
Mm-hmm.
His wife was one of the female members of a group called Sweet Trio. I was the DJ. Non-stop party rocking. It's your mind that we are shocking. As how the
Y'all gonna have to Google that. Y'all don't know nothing about that.
They don't. But it's like and Globe and WizKid. Like you could tell from the tone of my voice that I was a part of the background vocals. Like if I say parts of the record and then you realize you're like, oh shit, it was it? Because it's like the chorus went, play that beat. Why don't you play it for me? Play it, play that
I remember
beat.
that joint.
Why don't you play it for me? Switch the mix, Mr. DJ. Play that beat.
I never knew what that part said.
Oh, switch the mix, Mr. DJ.
I should be like, something, sister. I think everybody thought it said that. You was on the track. You know what it said.
Yeah. Switch the mix, Mr. DJ. Play that beat.
I never knew what that part said.
Why don't you play it for me? Play it, kick it.
Yeah, I remember that joint.
So if you go,
that was hot.
Thank you. If you go Google it and you hear me saying this now, you can hear how my tone was definitely a part of that. So he was that part, and then he was the one who got me involved in the new music seminars and got me into the battles and everything. WizKid.
Okay.
So these are different chambers of the DJing stuff that I'm explaining. I'm going through. I was taught the foundations in the Forest Projects by one young man.
Right.
Here you are, world. I have presented you a master. So then,
young apprentice.
The apprentice, right? Not apprentice. Right, I'm apprentice. So then WizKid was like, let me show you new style.
Right.
So he's showing me he's fine tuning me because I had the raw information. Now he was poising me. And at that time, I applied. I tried for the movie Beat Street. I was actually in real life in the scene of Beat Street. I was Lisa Lee and on all of them DJ in real life because we were working on some stuff. We all went to audition for the movie. And then someone or something in the movie, someone of the cast, somebody was like, get her out of there. I was cut out. When Facebook finally came in, and years later, I said to one of them, I was like, I never really said anything, but that hurt my feelings.
Wow.
That I was cut out of that. There's so many situations that happen like that.
Sure.
And then that age, that phase, then I went from I went after recording on Tommy Boy for the first time. Then I recorded with Sweet Tea.
Right. How did you meet Sweet Tea? And some people who know, they probably caught up by then. They know that you were Sweet Tea's DJ for a time period.
Yeah.
Tell us how that happened.
I actually am born and raised in the Bronx and lived in Parkchester at the time. And I would see Joe Ski Love all the time. He lived in Parkchester, and he was dating Sweet Tea at the time.
What was Joe Ski Love's biggest hit? Was it the Pee Wee dance, right?
Let's do the dance called a Pee Wee Herman.
A classic. I got a one-song classic. At least he got a classic.
Yes. Can I tell y'all something that I heard? I think it's majorly true, but I want to say it's majorly true. His entire album was like stolen from a car break-in. You know how when people that's why I don't leave records, hard drives, computers at parking garages, and you can't be lazy.
Happened to Ryan Leslie too. He lost his whole...
a million. Right, you can't. If he would have listened to this interview, or somebody like me, they would have been like, "Listen, don't leave that." And that's the things that happen. People used to be real quick, when I worked at Hot 97 for 15 years, myself and Coco Chanel would alternate on DJing. The weeks when it wasn't my turn to DJ, I still took my records and everything out my car because I didn't want to pay for broken window or feel that feeling of being violated.
Right.
So take your stuff out of the car.
Right.
So anyway, Joe Ski Love's album never really came out, but that's one of his singles.
Wow,
because,
yeah.
But it's because
of that.
Yes, yes. So these life lessons that was a 1980 something lesson that could maybe help somebody. Right? Don't leave it in your spaceship. I'm figuring we're going to be around this interview. Don't leave it in your spaceship.
Now they're stealing off your computer from their house, you know.
Right.
At least you still have a copy.
Right, at least. So, boom, boom, boom. Then from there, it was, and you have to understand this journey was always trying to figure out where we're going to take the turntables, how are we going to put them wherever, what's going on, how can we show the world again this part of the culture. Because remember, just to think, those genius minds, those young black urban Latino genius minds knew how much voltage runs through here and electricity and what megahertz equals this. They didn't blow nothing up.
Right.
They got y'all thinking they're not intelligent. How many of y'all know how many megahertz equals whatever? They had to know that, to know not to short out something. But we don't think of it in that way.
True. It's a science almost.
Right. So, boom, from there. Still trying to figure out, okay, so I was doing stuff like I did a game show called Turn It Up. You could Google it. Is it like one of the first? So they do questions, and it had this white guy who was the host. He was cool, thank you, because he didn't have to let me on the show back then, and they had the band.
How old were you then? What year was this, rather?
It was somewhere in the late 80s,
Oh, yeah,
early,
so this was
early on. Like, so when you think of TV, I'm thinking in my mind all of the things that I was doing with turntables.
Let's go back to Joski Love to
and
Sweet
I
Tea.
was jumping fast. Like,
don't worry, I'm gonna keep you on track. I know you got a lot to say.
Yeah. So then after that, I started working with Sweet Tea. We worked together.
How did you meet Sweet Tea?
Oh, Joski Love was like my girlfriend. Good point. Thank you. Joski Love was like, my girlfriend needs a DJ. Her name is Sweet Tea. She's working with Herbie Love Bug. She's on Profile Records, and the rest is history. We met, and then I met through Joe and her. And I recently apologized to her as adults. I said to her, we came together as two strangers and we made magic. And I said, I was raised in a situation that wasn't great for me in terms of communicating, because I'm an only child, so I apologize. I didn't have a sister or a brother to fight me.
You had imaginary friends, right?
You know what I'm saying? So I apologize, but we went through some things as young people. We didn't even realize what we were doing was so great. And the one thing that her and I speak about, Sweet Tea and myself, is that we say we wish she didn't stop. And I'm thankful. We're thankful for the chance that we took on each other, because we made a good mark.
Yeah. I mean, legendary status.
Yeah.
I had a one encounter with Sweet Tea, and it's because of, I used to dance for special ed. And she came to the Magnificent video. And that's when I first started dancing with special ed.
That's a
and
good
she was there. She had on the long mink, and she was in the video. And that's the only experience I really remember having with Sweet Tea, and they were on the same record label.
But see, can you imagine, in a sense, and this is me, what I call nigger math, excuse the French, but what I call nigger math is those assumptions that we have about someone based on maybe what we see or what we see them doing. So now look, I'm an artist. I'm the DJ with her. I don't have turntables at the time. I'm forced to have to go to other people like Clark Kent or others and arrange for us for when we would need to perform. Right. And I'm, you like you said, look at what you described her as, coming in with the full length mix, this and that. And here I'm struggling. I'm dedicating all this time to you. All I wanted was a different split on the money, a fairer split. Not, because I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm supporting, it's we. And it says the name of the group was Sweet Tea and Jazzy Joyce. It wasn't Sweet Tea, and then my name wasn't on nothing. And
that was part of that era. Fresh, Bratchy, Jazzy Jeff. And most of the time, the DJ's name was before the MC.
Right. And I couldn't expect that, because I came into the situation the way. But and the rhythm of it sounds amazing. Just we always, as adults, when we speak about it, we always say we wish we didn't stop. Because we would think about what we created, and there's nothing else that was parallel. You can't take a. We didn't listen.
It was Light. It was her. And
Latifah.
No, she was before Latifah.
She was.
I'm sorry. At that time, it was her, MC Light, and what's the one that MC Light had a beef with? Rox. What was the girl's name?
Oh no.
The other MC. Female MC.
I know who you're talking
Antoinette.
about. Antoinette, yeah.
That was just them.
Yeah,
from my recollection, from that 80s. Now, there were female MCs before them, but that was that would be like the equivalent, I guess, for when you had Little Kim, Foxy Brown, and the Brat or something like that.
I agree.
It was like that trifecta at that time.
Light made the most. Light was like one of the early, you could say like, it's not a battle rap, but she was taking on that beef.
She was dope.
Hot damn ho, here we go again. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like,
she was tough.
Yeah. So once that, everything comes in waves and phases. Mm-hmm. So once that kind of, what's next? The what's next was, moving into meeting people like other DJs through the battle scene, through the life and through everything, and then you come in contact with people like Kid Capri.
Mm-hmm. Now, around what time was that? What year was that?
Like late 80s into the 90s, and then we start to, because we're here just still trying to figure out, what are we doing? How do we do this? Where do I get a regular job? My mom's bothering me. I got to go to college. I got to do something, because it's like, what are we doing? So then the mixtape.
That's where I know Kid Capri from first. It was like the mixtape.
Right.
It was like Busy Bee. And Kid Capri, and then Ron G, and that little
especially era. Now look at this. Okay. You are levels is in the heart of the what? You're responsible now, knowing on the inside or the other side. Wait, you're responsible for a lot of women being pregnant and stuff, because you was up there cutting niggas and sending them out in the Harlem, making them all sexual chocolate. Then we had all this sexual chocolate guys all cut up good, not knowing they coming from places like Levels and Harlem's with the good stuff. Yeah. Then we had places. Look, Shake Shack is Willie Burgers on a franchise level.
Right.
That's what Harlem was on the corner, and then right where the Willie Burgers is, you had Kid Capri sitting on a crate, selling his mixtapes, $20 per tape. So you had that culture. So I got to meet him because I was out here in the culture. Mm-hmm. He befriended me and showed me so much. And he was the one, because remember I told you, difficulty with the communication, everything, but everything else in the universe, when you think about what I was doing, was audio.
Right.
But not from my mouth,
right.
Through my hands.
And he's one of the best audio on the turntable guys.
And the mic.
Yeah,
and the
right.
mic.
That's what I mean.
Yes. Yeah. And I was never really wanting to talk to, because remember when you asked me in the beginning of our conversation, like, I was like, I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to snap on them. I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. He forced me, but he was like, nah, Joyce, you gotta talk. You gotta. So everything about my personality coming through music, in between music, how I use it, how I do it, you gotta give Kid Capri that shout out and tell, and he's responsible, because he didn't let up on me. He was like, nah. And then once I got my swag with it, it was like, it's unstoppable, because now I took my knowledge that I attained as a DJ and then just manifested and implemented all the components, and then came out to y'all like, hey.
That was another stripe on your belt.
Right. So that was, he was the one who was developing me for my mixtape.
Right.
Rain. And by 1994, my motto was no more in 94. Why? Because I came to Harlem's in this area, because I would do the Bronx and Harlem in terms of the distribution of my mixtapes, and then head to Queens and Brooklyn the next day.
So how did you distribute them to one particular person, or did you distribute them to multiple record shops and things? That's when they had the mom and pop record shops,
yeah.
Harlem Music Hut and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Harlem Music Hut, shouts to them, was one of the main places that I would distribute it to. But it's just distribution locations that were popping.
Right. That's my man Lou and his family was up there.
Oh shoot, they
owe
me
Lou is
some
a barber now too.
I didn't know that, but he still owe me some money because I made them a lot of money with that. But then the record industry probably feel the same way about us. So everybody just I didn't get my cut out the bag anyway.
Right.
So I appreciate them. When I look at it beyond the money, I'm thankful that I was able to be ranked, because no one's going to sell something that's not worth something.
Right.
So, and when you look at it from a different point of view, I'm honored.
Right. You're glad there was a demand.
Yes, exactly. So, the mixtape era led right into ding, 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 ding. Because me being on the ground, because when you're on the ground, you're the finger, you're in the
pulse.
Yes, you're touching the people. They like, oh, it sustained me. And at the time, I had a young lady who was in my managerial camp, and she was always at Hot 97. And then when we were given that opportunity, it was that window of opportunity. I could have closed the door on it and watch it succeed and feel terrible to watch it just rock out for 15 years. Yeah. But I shook the dice. I walk around with a die in my pocket, like a die. Because sometimes, not all the times, we got to shake it and just go. So at that crossroad, I could have been like, I'm not going to take this opportunity with Angie Martinez, who was a stranger to myself, and Coco Chanel as well, another stranger. But look at the other situation, Sweet Tea, and every situation, I collaborated with strangers who I had no prior friendship history with, and came together and made magic.
So how long did you do the mixtapes before you got on the Hot 97?
The point of starting, I want to say some of the early. My photographic memory serves me well. It's part of the reason why I was able to look at DJs' crates and know what break beats look like. So in my photographic memory, I want to say like 89 to maybe 94.
That's a nice run. Any of those tapes was classics to you? Is any particular? How did you name them? Was there one that if someone want to go and look for it, you'd be like, that was my classic out of those?
Yeah, I would name them by the presentation of them. So it would always be like, Back to School, Volume 1. So it's like on the Back to School, you know that next year it'll be a Back to School coming out. You would look forward to that. So I had the Back to School, the slow jams. I was primarily known for, they said this, but it was like I had great slow jams and reggae, because I was a Yankee. I'm a Yankee presenting the yardie music to the world.
Right. So your ancestry goes back to Jamaica.
No, I'm American.
Oh, you're American.
My ancestry and observation of the musical culture came by way of, again, my birthplace. I was born and raised in the Bronx. So I'm amongst all the Jamaicans. This was when Shatas
got they...
Remember when Shatas used to be in every people's headrest camera when they used to have the movies? It's like Shata on the screen here, on the headrest, everywhere. Like, I come from hearing, I'm American, I'm walking amongst all of the people. They're not really paying me any attention, but I'm paying attention to the cars going by and listening to songs that is from their culture. But me as an American, I can I'm amongst them all the time, so I understand the patois and everything.
You figure it out.
So I'm picking records that as an American, I can understand. That's why if you really look at, it's interesting that we're hearing this conversation at this point, because when I look at how music moves and the things that I'm saying to you right now in this, when you think of the songs that I chose, they still haven't changed. They're reggae classics, because not to say but I really was there and a part. I'm telling you how I was picking them as an American. I'm walking amongst y'all. Y'all used to play the music in the cars and so certain or certain bass lines, everything. So then I would take my same money that I'm saving, allowance money, whatever I work for, I'm going and I'm buying these records. Then I'm playing.
Hits are hits. It don't matter.
No, they are, but still in all.
But I'm just saying, you heard that it was a hit.
Right.
So you put it on your tape. So even if you can't understand everything and you're not from the culture, there's something about a classic song that almost everybody could relate to. And the DJs are usually on it early. Right. So the reason why I'm able we never get to hear it half the time.
But me saying this to you is what a Jamaican man said to me. That's why I'm able to say it back to you with confidence, because he said Joyce. Because he's on the outside and witnessing me, and I was witnessing them, and I explained to him how I was choosing the music. You know, since I'm still in the community that I did so much, I'm getting feedback still, of the observation of me. So, I was explaining to him about how I would be amongst y'all, but I'm taking in the information through my ears, making these selections, and he was like, "Without you, Joyce, there was no conduit." No middle person. And then I'm doing all of this. I'm not, running down on them for payola or nothing. Like, I'm buying a record, supporting it, putting a mixtape together because I'm feeling like you said, this is a hit. This is a hit. And yeah, I hear a lot of my playlist selections and situations. And I have the mixtapes. I can release them as historical proof. Mm-hmm. And when young DJs who don't really know who I am and they're coming back, and it's sort of like my routine just played back at me, kind of literally, choice of records. Because when you think of being a DJ, right, it's a creative moment to take these materials and then tell your story. Right. I keep hearing my story told back to me. Wow. And I don't mean to sound so. I don't mean
people got those classic tapes, and they probably listen and study them like everything else.
They grew up on them. There's young DJs
so they go to the party and play the same sequence that they grew up on.
But they don't realize that the founder or the founders, not only myself or other DJs that we took, it's like my story, like when you look at maybe the bass line choice or the whatever, or the lyrical choice, that's why it feels the way it is, because I was sitting making these musical choices, taking my time. This was before the machine tells you what beats per minute and this and that. We
know that.
We had the innate. Right.
Yeah.
Because Look, everybody, this is all how we got here, through repetition and rhythm. Your daddy was on that. Right. He was all up in that. He had to get in that. And now that he got that, look what he made, man. Here you come, man. 9 months later, from that Eggman. Like...
No doubt. No doubt. So, yeah, I just got a lesson right there. You know what I'm saying? A couple jewels was dropped. Right. So now you're at Hot 97. Yes. Tell me how that all came together.
Oh, that was 15 years of a lot. I don't want to be long-winded on it, but I'm thankful.
It was good. It was good. In my memories, it was good.
Time.
Well, y'all came on Friday?
Friday night, 8 to 10. We were on Hot 97 every Friday. It was a show called Ladies Night.
That's right.
Myself, Angie Martinez, who you hear, shouts to Angie Martinez on Power at this time, and myself and a young lady by the name of DJ Coco Chanel. Right. And I was at that crossroads, like, I don't know her either, but because my original pitch and fight and everything was always like, I wanted a show. I wanted a show like Flex. Right. Like, I want my own shit.
Right.
I don't want to have to share this. I'm just talking.
And y'all alternated each week, right?
Yeah. So it's like we even, and to tell the business side of it, we even split the pay that was supposed to be for one person.
Which leads me to this, not to cut you off. Is that part of the challenge of being a female DJ? Was that some of the reflection of being a female DJ? Tell me about that. in your career? Because that's what it sound like.
Right.
I ain't know no other two men splitting a week, a day, and splitting the money.
Right. Nobody.
So tell me a little bit about that challenge.
Like I'm the outspoken one out of us. So you're gonna get the truth of the facts or whatever. I haven't.
Yeah, Coco Chanel came off like very, very sweet.
Oh, like nice.
You know
She didn't say what it was. Like, this is what it was. We split. So repeat the question so I apologize.
Being a female DJ.
That was just one of the many challenges, and that's a prime example of some of the sacrificing choices that were made by people such as myself that you were not aware of for the culture. That's why when it came down to when we were negotiating for gigs and all of that stuff, and promoters or people thinking or feeling like we weren't worthy. First of all, you're not paying for commercials on the radio station. Commercial slot time for 60 seconds is way more than what they wanted to pay back then. So you look at that component. Y'all don't pay for commercials. Y'all don't. And this is our way of supplementing the sacrifice. And when you fight with us, it's just hurtful. And when you now looking back on it now, like I've run into promoters who would have like these weird energies about the experience and try to make it seem like they gave me so much money or they made so much money for me. But back then I wasn't looking at things from a monetary matrix number nigga math point of view. I should have been doing it from there. I was moving from the love of the culture, from the experience, from the opportunity, from the this and the that. And when you look at that and you think, wow, 15 years taking half of what we should have been getting, both her and I, the sacrifices that we made to make.
Did that follow suit with when you were hired to do shows? Did you feel like you were offered less money because you were
absolutely yes
all across the board?
All across the board. That was just one key component or an example of the things that people such as myself was doing in the name of the presentation in the moment.
And when you get on the radio, usually that propels your career as far as you now can get more money to do a party and things like that.
Right.
Because you are on the radio. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, it's you know what it is? It's not a hip hop thing. It's a world thing. That's a reflection of the entire world and how man looks at women.
A woman, right? And
really
that's crazy because man slid out of the vagina. So not to
have the utmost respect, right?
But that's partly why there's some scientific genius ass guy that just wants to figure out how to clone so he doesn't have to ask for pussy anymore. Because that's the thing, they hate having to ask, like, and the stuff. Boy, bye. They don't like all of that stuff that they got to go through. And then some queens are like praying mantises. After you get the good box, you about to die because she gonna kill you.
Take all your shit and everything else. Yeah,
exactly. So that is part. I get it.
I'm pregnant.
Right. Oh,
child support.
Exactly.
You say you play in the NBA, don't you?
Right. All of the. So look at those are things that make male and female throughout the history be a certain way towards each other. Right. So yes, I have been subjected to the idea of you should take this dick so you can get in here and get on the club, and I'm like, no, I don't like the dick, but I'm a good DJ. Can I please not have to take the dick? And can I DJ? And can you pay me?
Wow.
So that's the summarization of you do a lot of dick dodging. Because you're trying to find your way through
the madness.
Right. To get to the moment.
Right.
So that's why all of the fighting that you have done to get to the moment, to actually come to the, I get to finally DJ. Like,
So you had that moment for 15 years, which was a good run. But I also see people who've had that 15 and beyond and that are still on the radio. So how did that end? I know, because I'm pretty sure you probably didn't want it to end.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a good gig to have.
Yeah. It was, I think for me, standing in it and then looking back at it, there was a lack of growth and development in the show for myself and Coco. Her and I weren't really friends prior to the situation. So if you look at the whole stint, her and I didn't really do anything major together, productive-wise. And it took me about 10 years to turn back to her and say, and point out a lot of things that she did or perpetuated that weren't friendly. And she was amazed at the fact that I said all of the things that I said. And she said, how come you waited 10 years to say something? And I looked at her and I said, how come you did all of that? So there's a lot of people who I have records of perpetuation that I never did anything. And that in itself, that was a long time for us to not develop into something. So if you look outside of everything else, just me and her, let's look at each other. We had that opportunity. And I'm saying to you, come on, let's do this. The station is saying to us, look, y'all better do something or else.
So y'all was warned to take it up a notch or do something to
So we were being in that space for me. I can taking out her, and I'm going to look at it from my point of view. For me, it was just time. It was time for it to be dismantled because there was no growth and development in it. So, it had its long run. And if I had better people around me, I probably would have left. Like Angie did, because our stint was 15 years. So Angie was only with us for 10 years. And she left, and then they bumped us to a different time slot. So they gave us another 5 years to get it together. And I went down with the circumstance that I was brought in with. But if I was brought in on my own, with my own, it would have been a different type of thing. But even no matter how great I want to try to be or prepare or whatever, if I'm being scored or judged on something as a group, I go down with the group.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
And so what happened after that? I know you had you were featured on a Digable Planets record or something. I remember seeing all these things come to my mind.
Exactly.
What was that relationship? What was that? Because I'm not sure about how deep or light that was.
That was right before. That was the mixtape era, right before the radio life.
Okay.
In between. Kind of, I think during it was into
because you was popping at that time.
It was into the radio era type of time-ish. And what happened was I was DJing at this regular party because the way that the music industry used to work was albums would get released on Tuesdays. So that was a big music day. So there was a party that went down every Tuesday called the Funk Hut downtown. And it was run by two identical twins. One was a photographer and the other one was like the host, and they used to do their clothing line and everything, but that was their event. And it was I was the DJ, and it was frequented by a lot of industry heavyweights. And they would come, and it was a great place to socialize. And you're gonna hit a real because Jazzy Joyce was playing. And I met Digable. And they were coming on a regular, and long story short, they was like, we're working on the first question from Butterfly Ishmael. He was like, do you have Furious 5, Grandmaster Flash Furious 5, the record, Making Money, Make
He wanted to know if you had an original because he wanted to sample off of that.
Right. So I'm from the Herbie days of Sweet Tea. That was another reason that I kind of left from over there because Herbie used to get so angry with me because I never would want to just give him my records. I'm like, I spent my allowance. I made sacrifices. This record cost $50, $100, $20. I'm sorry that I got it. Go get your own or something. Stop trying to pressure me into. So when he came to me with the one, because people try to, that was a lot. Mm-hmm. They always want to utilize your records, and that one record, they don't know the journey. They don't know how you had to plan for 2 weeks for Saturday, scheme, find out, call, do y'all got the record, travel. All of these things. So
they had a little skit on that and at the Get Down.
But this is all from conversations from authentic people such as myself that really lived this life. I said to him, look, you want to utilize the record? I come with the record.
Smart,
and that's how
smart business
and that's
move.
how
smart business move.
But that's how, from life experiences, look at all of the sensation and all of the years of the, and remember back from when I told you with the guys with the how all of this just mishmashes into why you are like, no. Like they don't. So
we could talk
about it, right? So he, long story short, I came with the record. So in coming with the record, I scratched the record. And scratching the record meant I had to go with the band. And going with the band, I went on tour with them. And
that was dope.
I was like this.
You parlayed that in there.
I was like, look, this is the record. Look, this is the record. You want it? It's me and the record.
No doubt.
And that's how that happened.
Okay, that's dope. So now, sometime after, I don't know if it was during or after the Hot 97, there was a reality show that you were a co-host on.
Yeah, I was.
Tell me about that. What was it called again? Because I don't remember exactly.
Master the Mix. Are you referring to?
Mix,
okay, right after my stint at Hot 97 ended in 2011, that was like big because any relationship that you're in, personal, business, anything, it has a fallout because you've invested in it. So your time of your habits of being in it have to be broken, have to be reshaped and changed. Mm-hmm. So it was a space of, whoa,
what do I do now?
Right. And at the time, DJ Scratch approached.
From EPMD.
Yes, from EPMD.
That's my brother, man. He is one of the nicest DJs.
Yes, shouts to Scratch Vision. He has his amazing website and platform that he was way ahead of the technological.
I think I was there when he won at the DJ battle at the DJ seminar. And it was in the world.
We didn't even speak about that component.
It was in the world.
Yeah, we didn't even speak
about that. And I think Clark Kent, that's when Clark Kent made him a Superman. I think I was there.
They're the two that to jump around in my timeline of my existence.
We had to talk about that.
Yeah. I credit DJ Scratch and Clark Kent for getting me in battle ready, tenacious form, another form of DJs that were instrumental in making me who I am as a DJ. When I DJ'd against Cash Money in 1987, in the battle, y'all can find it out there in the universe. So that's another component. And that's another thing about being a DJ. As a DJ, it wasn't accepted that you could only be a DJ or you had to be a club DJ, a battle DJ,
a blend mixtape DJ.
All of these, so that when we put you in any environment, you know how to use the tools. It's the same thing with barbering, to know how to use the tools, but use them correctly. And in different circumstances, you use them differently. Right. On a child, you would approach differently than you would on a grown man's skin or elderly skin, but it's the same tool.
On different textures, different complexions.
Right, but it's the same tools. It's just the approach on how. So, that being said, Clark Kent had me battle ready. So boom, boom, boom. Where are we?
We're back at the battle of the mix. What's the name of the show?
Master of the Mix.
Master of the Mix.
So I want to say Scratch was definitely instrumental in the back end of choosing and gathering us. And one of his pitches with me, because the way I am and everything, like, he was like, it's not, Master of the Mix was before Love and Hip Hop. And there was other
It was an early reality show.
It was an early.
And you was, I see, and you know what's crazy? I remember all of this stuff without really paying attention. You know what I'm saying? So you was doing stuff. Because in order for you to kind of know and see people without you really paying attention to them, they have to be doing stuff. They have to be all in your face. And I remember you was on there, you was flossing and everything. You was getting some money.
I actually, I'm thankful. I won a computer. Everything that you saw within the Master of the Mix DJ reality show was real. You have the foundation, the machine, and then we were placed in it. So all of the unpredictable circumstances were real. And I really had to fight for whatever I had to fight for, and I won in Vegas, the Vegas challenge. I kicked all of them because it's like in the mix of a mix. So I'm at that point, I done been around the world. I got stamps. I done humped on a few in different countries. Like, I'm different.
Right.
So you can assume however you want. But when I come up there and then I see who is in front of me, it's knowing how to work that.
Right.
And I had a tiny bit more experience than the rest of my compadres. Even
who
though
else was on there with you? It
was Scratch. It was these DJs that were unknown to me at the time, but they still were fiery within what they do. And Victor Duplay was one of them. He was one of them DJs that's known in the what I call fruits and incense world, like fruits and berry ass bourgeoisie.
Like
catering.
Paris Hilton is a DJ.
No, not quite. But just catering to, whereas he would be with collegiate, educated, black elitists.
So he's
I'm
DJing
still
in the
in the
Hamptons?
hood. Right. He's in the Hamptons. I'm still in the strip club. Near the you know what I'm saying, big booties everywhere. Like, that's the difference in terms of those cats. So you had all of these DJs who were elitists in whatever their lanes were.
Right.
Who came together. So I don't remember everybody's name back there, but we were all that were chosen were grandmasters and wherever they're. So you were bringing ninjas together to. You brought Mr. Watanabe. Like, I seen you for years. Come over here. Now I get to fight you type of.
Right.
It was not. No one was identical, but everybody was a savage.
Right. So how did that work out?
It was amazing.
It was like different styles.
Yes.
Competing. Masters of different styles all competing.
And because the producers of the show were all DJs, either DJs or lovers of the DJ culture, that reality show at that point was put together in a way that was really awesome. And it was prior to me cutting off all my hair, which... a little known fact, and a lot of people, like, when you look on social media now and they talk about their personal stuff and everything, I've had 8 major surgeries. My stomach has been opened up 8 major times because I have Crohn's disease. So it's amazing, like, you see me saying that out loud to you, and I can't imagine what your mind is thinking, but it wasn't something that I presented to you in the virtual world. So when I see people putting so much of themselves out there in that way, it's interesting, because would everyone else feel differently about me in knowing that I've had 8 major surgeries? That's why sometimes when people come and whisper to me in certain circumstances and they're dumping on you like, oh, Jazzy Joyce, help me, I'm doing it. I'm like, Negroid in. Okay, you see me accomplish all of that, but what you didn't know is, and then I lean and whisper and I'll be like, I had Crohn's disease and I've been operated on 8 times and I had this and never mind the fact when I crashed on a motorcycle, broke my left collarbone and clavicle, and was terrified at the idea that I would never be able to, much less write, DJ, or scratch my butt booty. So I'm a bike lifer. I ride motorcycles.
Yeah.
Like that was the other life that wasn't known about because it was outside of the entertainment world.
Right.
So blah 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 blah. Blah. Go ahead. Next question.
So you did the DJ show.
That was amazing, by the way. Shouts out to
was
Master
amazing.
Master the Mix.
What comes after that?
After Master the Mix is what the fuck is going on with the culture now? Because now it's like,
Is that when? Well, we did skip one thing. Tell me about the transition from turntables and
to all the technological advances along the whole damn rideway.
Yeah.
The responsibility.
With Serato and all this.
The transitions.
Right, because you've been through it
with
all.
Of it. Yeah. So, okay, when computers first came into the world, and not even the marketplace, just the world, I had a friend who became my friend through someone else. You know how sometimes you meet somebody through somebody else, and then you and that person wound up being closer than
happens
the
all
people
the time.
that you introduced. So that was one of those situations. And she was a young woman. I won't even say her last name because her family back then was like the example of black wealth. Like, through the turntables took me around the world, and I experienced so many things and so many people and so many cultures. And, it's almost biblical in a sense, because when you think about the fact that if I had to pay for that journey with my own cash, I wouldn't have been able to pay for it. But
That's what we love about hip hop.
Yes. But I gave up my life and everything to the culture. So so anyway, she at the time, I remember things like her family, they had a cut off elephant foot at the door. That's how rich they were. Wow. You understand? Like
Stuffed.
That's stuff. Stuff. But that level of wealth and her family, and she was always friends with me, and her family was very kind. And I was just bugging out about the computers, and she said one thing to me. She said, "Joyce, it's man-made. It's not gonna break, and you're gonna need it." And if I didn't take her advice, the same way I'm able to say it back to you, it would have haunted me. Because that would have been a crossroad moment where you don't take the baton, the baton of information. Right. She said it in a tone and in a moment and in a way where she understood I have to say something to her because I have this knowledge because of her existence. She knows what is being projected.
She planted the seeds.
Right. And she was like, yo. And if I had to translate it, if I had to say the same thing to a young man on the corner, right, that's the difference with somebody like me, who is the same message. I would say to him, my nigga. That's how kind of she, like, yo.
How you say things make a difference.
Right. So she said that at the right time, and then that made me and forced me to remain technologically aware. And then once I was aware, once you understand, just the same thing, going back to the tools and barbering, and once you know the know-how, it's just, now it's, okay.
Implementing it.
Yes, implement. So once I learned the grid, as everything changed, I was able to change with it fluidly. Right. And I was one of the pioneers who was not fearful. I was part of the people who, when Serato first came out, I'm so busy running so hard and up in advance with the technology that I'm in parties, and I had to make up parties for people because the computer would crash. Right in the middle. Right in the middle. Luckily, I was progressive and went through all of the things. And now still able to implement my energies into the new technology and say, well, this is what I could do with it. So then after the technological advancements and master the mix, and it was post Hot 97 and what's going on, that was like a rude awakening part on the personal level and on just the industry level. It was kind of like, if you will, an end of a nice long run in terms of really being on the forefront of carrying the torch with turntables. So
Right.
it wasn't the end of the idea of Jazzy Joyce's career, just a long run.
Right.
And at that time, on the personal level, I mentioned that I have Crohn's. I was diagnosed with Crohn's at 17.
What exactly is Crohn's for those people that don't know? Like myself.
It's an irritable bowel disease in the family of ileitis, colitis, those type of diseases. So there's always spectrums on diseases. And Crohn's happens to be, you have like ulcers, ulcerative colitis, it
What are the
advances.
symptoms like?
Pain, and it's basically stems from food allergies, or AKA bad food, and stress is a major mixture and component that excites the disease. And if you look at my life and look at how much stress that I was,
the music industry could be very stressful,
right? And then the poor hours of sleep and the poor food, that was the end result. And in essence, with all of that stuff going on in the surgery and every time when they go back into your wound, it's bad. So and just think how many times I quietly endured a surgery and came back and you guys didn't know.
Right.
Like the doctors would look at me and be like, huh? What do you do? Because I would make sure I would kind of, because of being used to scheduling and planning things, I would schedule and plan and plot and make sure I get to the hairdresser at this time to make sure I know my surgery's on this day. So when I come from the surgery, at least I could look halfway decent after. So,
what's the recovery time like from each surgery?
It's honestly, what you see is about a 3-month recovery, but everything else going on, the body falling back into its routine, and if you really pay attention to what it's going through and it takes about a year.
Wow.
For you to fully, but the soldier in me is gonna present to you like I'm ready as soon as I come off the operating table, because it was always the presentation of, you don't know how vulnerable I am in this point.
Right.
But so at that point, I had a hysterectomy, because I had the hysterectomy due to an 8-pound tumor that was discovered through doing housework. I was a homeowner at the time, and I was snow blowing. The snow blower kind of banged into my belly from a curb that was off, because I used to fill up my tank with gas, and my neighbors miss me because I would do the whole area. Like, you wouldn't have to get up. If you lived next door to me on this side or that side, I didn't want to put the snowblower back in the house with a full tank of gas. To me, it's like it's a bomb. So I would just utilize it and clean up everybody's. You wouldn't have to get up. I'd do your driveway. You did it. So anyway, that's how I discovered the tumor, and it had it removed. And once it was removed, the texture and the rate of my hair growth changed. And me being used to having all that hair and everything, I didn't want to psychologically go into a place where I felt bad.
So you accepted
So
it.
I accepted it and was like, I'm going to make something out of this.
Right.
And then in making something out of it, I had to figure out how to maintain it.
Right.
And for a long time, I wanted to learn the art of barbering. I've tried in the 90s. I even went to a barber school here in Harlem at the Riverside Church.
Dennis, the program.
Dennis, yes, shouts to Dennis. And that was I got a real brief story on that. And at my graduation, he was taking us to a homeless shelter to cut. And the whole time when I was in school, it never was about the whole Jazzy Joyce thing.
Right.
Long story short, he took us out to Brooklyn, and there was some construction on a Brooklyn street, and it ripped the axle off of the van that he was transporting us to. He's such an amazing gentleman who does great things. And it is at that moment we were stranded. And that would have meant we wouldn't have made it to the homeless shelter and this, that, and the other. Right. That's when I used my Jazzy Joyce superpower and got a stranger from Brooklyn, young man. He didn't even realize I wasn't on the radio anymore, but it was fresh after I was not on the radio. So it felt like he's like, all he wanted was, Jazzy Joyce, just give me a shout out. And he took myself and all of the students to the homeless shelter. That's all we needed to do was get there so that he could get, nice. Yeah, so he could get told, like, I was like, don't worry about it. We're going to still go. Just tell them we're coming. You deal with the van. And I haven't been back to see him since, but I thank him for that. Because then once I came to you to get to levels and get the experience of really being taught on a...
Before we get to that, we met through
right.
Dasul. This is when I was doing my New York City Barber battle.
Yes.
You didn't DJ the first one, but I think it was the second. It was either the second, the third, the fourth, or the third, the fourth, the fifth. I don't know, but
I think it might have been the third, the fourth,
yeah,
and the fifth.
I think you are right. Yeah.
Because when I came into your life, look, this is how I was. I was DJing like this. You remember how I was talking to you? I was like, really, can I just say what I want to say? I was inside my head like, my nigga, this is awesome.
Yeah, people had no idea.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, now it's like all of these races and genders. It's just like a gumbo mix of, and then everybody in there is super ninjas in the cutting world. Like this was a superhero convention of cutters, and your presentation at that time was at another level. Like I was like, and adding me into the mix of your levels was it like, I remember the young man who has the self-cutting system.
Yeah.
That was when he was first starting with the first self-cutting system. Now to look at him now,
right.
Like I remember him.
Right.
I remember his presentation. I remember some of the other barbers that I saw in Harlem who competed for the design joint. Like I saw these people and it was just an amazing experience. That's when I met you, and that was like the Super Bowl of the situation. Like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I think you expressed to me then that you had a fondness for cutting hair.
Cutting it, right. But I probably wasn't. It was probably light. It was probably like, you probably was like this with your cool self, because you're so cool, man of minimal words. That's you was probably like, I heard a lot of people say that. I'm here when you're ready, kind of vibe.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you did finally reach out. You know, you gave me a call. I mean, we talked. Then you came by the shop, and we talked for a long time.
I had to come up, because look, let me explain something to you. Anyone who's listening or watching this, right? When there's a master that has information, you have to understand the windows of opportunity, right? Because there always going to be a window, but you're going to have to work too. It's always presented so that, let me put this here, and if they come here, I know they're serious. That's what you did to me. And I could only respect that because I'm a master in something else.
Right.
So I understood what you were presenting. There's so many times that I've presented the same scenarios for wanting to teach someone the DJing, like the in-depth. You can mock all you want, but having that master understanding is different.
Right.
So part of me coming to you that day required, ladies and gentlemen, it was an hour drive. That these are the things that when you're presented with an opportunity, some people, they won't take what it takes to get to that information. And I need it.
99% of people won't.
Right. But that's why when you were presenting me with the situations, I knew what it was. And I was like, oh, I understood it, because I was like, oh, okay, that's nothing. But in that, there still was a challenge for me because of my circumstances.
Right.
So it was still hard for me to get there, but that wasn't my focus of complaint. Or you have to not think about that and go.
Right.
So yeah, I went through it. I was like, oh, okay. He's giving. I knew when the window of opportunity opened. You gotta understand those crossroads and those moments. And when you were giving them to me, I understood what it was, and that's why you respected it, because you were presenting it, and you was like, oh, as a master, you was looking like.
Yeah, because it meant a lot for someone in your position who's experienced all that you have to be serious. But then again, on the other side of that, that's who you are to get where you are. You know, you was always serious about every opportunity that you got. So I also respected that. And when the first day you was there probably an hour early, just like today, soaking up the vibe, you know what I'm saying? But that's what you do. You're supposed to get there early and scope out the area and get into your zone so you better prepared, you know? And I knew with that, when you did dedicate to it, that you would go all the way through. And you did. You finished the program. You got your apprentice license. You even cut a little bit at the shop, you know? But, you know, I know it's your second or third love. Oh, within those three loves, you've had your exhibit for your art, your T-shirts.
Yes.
Tell us about that, and then I have one more thing we want to talk about. So let's get into the Jazzy Joyce's art with your T-shirts and your paintings, and tell us about that and how did you discover that?
One of the four elements. Again, we're going back to the elements of hip hop. Bang, it's all good.
Go ahead, let's go.
You know, it's just another form of creative expression, and I just started utilizing it. I have a black book from the first young man that taught me how to DJ, and when I was sitting on the bench, because you had the black book in the graffiti world, you have to have your black book. So when you meet another graffiti artist, they can sign your black book to say you met such and such, and you sit on it. So I was from that, and this was just me exploring that. So I named my line "Need That Rose Gold."
Need that rose gold.
So this is like, look, I painted this. It's roses, as you guys can see. So the reason why I named it "Need That Rose Gold," because when you focus in on something and you like it, like when you want to, I've seen people go through. You stand online for Jordans. Why? Because you feel like you need that.
Right.
So that's where that came.
That's
so
right.
yeah, and
I
then
need that. We say that a lot.
Yes,
Yo, I need
that. Right.
I need that in my life. I need, you know.
So that's what "Need That Rose Gold," and then they
Got it.
all of the number of letters in the word match, sort of like my Jazzy Joyce, 5 letters.
Right.
So giving y'all insight on decision, and so the character that I paint, it looks like a star baby type of thing. So symbolically, what it represents is like when you see the crown, the 5 points, 5 senses.
Right.
You know, we have our 5 senses, and then the stars are an homage to my grandmother, who was very instrumental in raising me. She used to doodle, and she would always doodle stars. I guess she was looking for her numbers. I was always figured she was looking for her numbers in the newspaper in the daily, because she used to play numbers and but she would doodle and the stars. And one day I just was missing her, and I came up with the first presentation kind of that character. And then when you think about how things are branded and marketed towards us, on us, for us, whatever, that became sort of like my Ronald McDonald-ish representation of something that comes from me. So when you see it on site, you're like, oh,
you know that's your logo, kind of like. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, one last thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, we'll get to that at the end. The next generation of female DJs.
Oh my goodness!
Because I've seen young girls on the internet, and just what do you think about maybe the next generation of DJs and the female DJ?
The next generation of DJs, if they do their homework and case study, they would be able to still communicate with some of the masters, and maybe because we're still living, some of the people that the culture has been built upon and structured for y'all to exist in, to get a better understanding. But they never really want you to talk to the ones that were there, because then it makes it more difficult for them to control y'all within it, because we'll enlighten you on certain things. Yeah. So they don't want that. But the millennial mind doesn't realize how much it's lacking. They lack the ability to critically think, and just so many things. There's so many shortcomings on it. And not to bash them, but at the same time, millennials are so amazing and brave and hungry for knowledge. And so by the time you can't take my 51-year-old mind and expect a 20-something-year-old mind or younger or even a little older to still function at this level, because they don't have the life experiences to make them be able to do it. But I hope that the young people really study whatever it is that they're being presented that comes from a machine, because before the machines there was humans who did certain crafts and went right. So and I didn't mean to lose track of the question, but bring us back.
The next generation.
Yeah, the next. DJs, shouts to the next generation in their brilliance and everything, but they scare me at the same time, because they're so strong in their lack of information. Yeah. They be tough with it.
Yeah. They're very bold.
Tough.
And they don't have the humility that it comes with experience. And I think and just in general, that I hope somewhere along the line they could realize how so important mentorship is. And no matter what you do or what you want to do, you need a mentor.
Right.
And you don't have to just have one. So, all those young DJs, it would be like gold to you to reach out to the past generation of DJs.
Here's the thing. Can I just say that? Because bringing it back, I asked you to repeat the question. You got to think about who their parents are. Their parents are male. If they have their father probably was mad at me because I was popping. Because him as you understand. You got to think is children of haters.
It could be.
You understand? So they're not going to be told about Jazzy Joyce. Yeah. So for them to come and seek me out, so that I would, and I was trying to do show classes, anything, so I could connect to them directly, but they don't even have the people who showed them the cultures, which is probably their fathers or uncles who were haters, who never got a chance to make it. They would have never made it because they would have never been able to be a part of the culture without technology. Because if it stayed on vinyl, it's part of the elitists. You have to have money. You don't got the records. Same way Herbie, he's $1 million producer, but still arguing with somebody like me over a tool he needed.
You had to be. You have to be a purist in that sense, because it's like you fishing without bait if you don't have the records.
Right.
You don't have the records. But
technology, still, even with technology the way it is, right? The machine allows them to DJ, but they don't got the knowledge.
Right.
It's fishing without no bait.
Right. And it's different for you to know the record, but it's another thing to be a part of the record when it was received. So you're in tune with the whole culture as it was presented and received. It's totally different when you experience it firsthand.
Right.
And then you experience
right.
it
So now, let's say that. Going back to when I tell you I hear some of my routines coming back, like when I've been amongst a young DJ who didn't know who I was and heard me spinning and kind of come up on me and whisper and was like, yo, that was a dope transition. And I would chuckle inside my body like, I'm the reason you exist. But we're not, I wouldn't say it out loud.
Right.
But the old Jazzy Joyce would say, I'm the reason you exist.
Right.
And then it's bad energy.
Yeah.
But in my maturity, I've learned.
You could have just said, Google me, bitch.
But that's my new shit. I stay sending niggas to Google me all day. Like, I don't got time. Or hit the website or some, just Google, hit me, my niggas. I don't got, what you want to know?
Yeah.
I was in the fucking bodega in the hood, and this little halal nigga tried to tell me DJ Khaled was this and that. Talk to me. I said, nigga Habibi, I will fuck your shit up in here. Google me. Next time when he see me, he be like, oh my Habibi, so sorry. Right. Anyway, hi Khaled.
So, in closing, tell the people how they could get in contact.
First and foremost, hit my website, www.djjazzyjoyce.us. I'm on Instagram at Jazzy Joyce. On Facebook at DJ Jazzy Joyce, and Twitter is the same thing, DJ Jazzy Joyce. My phone number is none of your fucking business. And I'd like to thank Barber World TV. Kamal, it is my honor. I'm thankful to be part of the Levels family. Hey, real quick, I'm going to say this on the record. I'm amateur in terms of barbering, right? Mm-hmm. So in order for me to get a great gauge on where I am, I would be honored to enter into any amateur level barber battles under the Levels family so that I could get a gauge. The only way you could really understand where you are is you got to throw yourself into the battlefield. Amongst your peers, yeah, right. So I'm ready for that. I'm new. I'm the newbie. Somebody could just be like, yo, I rocked. I beat Jazzy Joyce. That's fine. I was already famous in something else. That's right. But I'm over here. I'm cutting. So, and I also have Joyce Cuts for my page.
Holla at your girl.
Joyce Cuts. Yes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Shout out to everybody who listened. This was a great interview.
Yes. And in closing, love is love, life is life, and loyalty is priceless. Peace.
Hey.
Yeah. I've been cutting these heads for years. It made me a master. There's rules to this shit to get money faster. A cut by cut booklet for you to get your game on track. Not your lines pushed back. Rule number uno.